Tonight on Sports Final, we'll catch you up on all the action from the South and the East Hill.
We'll be debating with the high school desk about the NBA and the NFL. And we'll be sitting down with Bombers defensive lineman Matt Riccitelli to talk about the team's recent success and the big weeks ahead.
All that and more coming up tonight.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sports Final. I'm Alex Hessig.
I'm John Sokoloff. Alex, a big week on the South and East Hill, but also Cornell actually playing meaningful football in the later end of the season. That's pretty crazy. Bombers football had a big weekend as well, and also some college hoops starting with, that's big with Cornell and Cuse around the area.
Yeah, we got the Boeheim connection. Jimmy Boeheim over at Cornell and his father coaching Syracuse, so it'll be interesting to see how those two teams play out the beginning of their seasons with an early season matchup. But John, you have to tell us about what happened with Ithaca football late season game, against Union. Tell me what happened.
Well, the Bombers, it was a huge day for Bombers football yesterday. They had a lot of playoff implications going into the game. They're also hosting a Union team that's first in the Liberty League. Now, the Dutchmen at 7-1 have won more games this year than the past 3 seasons combined. They were 5-25 in that span. Now, if IC wanted a Liberty League title their first year in the conference, they needed a win yesterday really badly. A loss yesterday would have made them out of contention. Let's go to Butterfield Stadium. Early in that first quarter, Nabi rolls to his right, trying to get something going on that first drive. He undercuts Jared Bauer, intercepted by Vanderhoof. So that would set up a 22-play, 80-yard drive by Union that was stopped on third down by Dan Loizos. That made Scheibel come in for this extra point that was up and split the upright, so it was good. So now the Bombers trail 3-0. Nabi trying to get something going later on in that first half, down 3-0. On a third and short, he uses his legs when the play breaks down to get the first down. Bombers get into the red zone, trying to get the first touchdown of the game. He tried to get Andrew Vito in the back corner. Paul Chambers was there on the great defense, so then that made a Dave Prudhomme field goal happen. Game's tied at 3. Second half, intensity was really rolling at Butterfield Stadium. It was alumni weekend on the South Hill. Early on, play action. Nabi down the seam, deep, gets Andrew Vito all the way at the Union 3. That would set up the Bombers deep in their territory. On third and goal, trying to get Isaiah DeHady into the end zone. He gets stopped at the 1-yard line. That would set up another field goal by Dave Prudhomme. You can't let a drive like that just end with nothing. So then the next drive, Aaron Francis gets a pick on his coverage on Griffin Beal. So then the Bombers offense would come back out. They'd be forced to punt. The next Union possession, Connor Kinzelman had himself a day, fumbled the football. Jordan Shem recovered it. 6-3, the Bombers still lead. That would set up a drive that ended with a Tristan Brown touchdown. 1,000 career rushing yards, the 10th player in program history to do so. Then the icing on the cake with 2 minutes left, Nabi finds Vito, who had 132 yards on the day. The freshman had a career game. And then the exclamation point. Isaiah DeHady runs to the right side. He gets his touchdown in the third game in a row. The Bombers would get the win 20-3. And now Ithaca's defense has allowed 14.6 points per game and now just over 4 points in their last 3 games on defense, which is insane. Nabi, 30 for 40, 284 yards and a touchdown. Brown and DeHady each getting touchdowns in the game for the 3rd straight week. Great duo in the backfield for the Bombers. That running back by committee has really worked out. So next week, a little bit of playoff implications for you. If Union beats RPI, Ithaca wins the Liberty League and gets an automatic bid into the playoffs. But with the Union win this week, Ithaca clinches at least 2nd place in the Liberty League. So at the very least, if RPI beats Union, then they will get to play in the inaugural Upstate New York Bowl. So Ithaca would end up playing whoever finishes 2nd in the Empire 8. So with the win yesterday, Alex, the Bombers at least get to go into the playoffs or just at least get that bowl game. So after Cortica, we're going to at least have another football game here on the South Hill. Just the added drama going into Cortica week should be for a great weekend on the South Hill. Absolutely. And the 59th annual Cortica Jug is next week. Our very own Jack Arpey has a little more on the history of the rivalry and on previewing next week's game.
South Hill was alive this weekend as Ithaca College welcomed both alumni and families of current students to celebrate its 125th anniversary. On the gridiron, the Bombers marked the occasion with a solid 20-3 win over Union College, keeping the team alive in the Liberty League and injecting a bit of extra excitement into a week that's always full of anticipation. Now, we all know most Ithaca College students have their sights set on the contest that will be taking place right here 1 week from today, and that is, of course, the 59th annual Cortica Jug. So we talked to a few of the Bombers to see how the performance on the field today translates into strategy for next week.
Well, I think we're gaining confidence every week, and now that we are the Co-Liberty League champs in our first year in the program, and it's just, again, giving us confidence.
Well, the Bombers' win this weekend has certainly lifted spirits on South Hill heading into Cortica weekend. Quarterback Waheed Nabi stresses that the prestige of the game will not change the Bombers' strategy heading into the big day.
You know, we're just going to go at it the same way we've been going at every other week. You know, it's a lot of concentration and just focusing the same way we have been for every game, and making plays that we need to make, and practicing the way we always have been.
But ultimately, it's what happens on the field Saturday that really matters.
Depends on how we play. You know, if we turn the ball over 8 times, it's not going to be too successful for us. But, you know, we just have to play our brand of football. We got to move the ball the way we do. We have to play a very stout defense.
The Bombers put on a defensive show today here at Butterfield Stadium, defeating Union 20-3. But now all eyes turn to the biggest little game in the nation, 1 week from today, where the Bombers will look to bring home the Cortica Jug for the first time in 8 years. For ICTV Sports Final, I'm Jack Arby.
Thanks, Jack, for that great package. I can hardly contain my excitement for Cortica, and that package just got me even more hyped. We'll be talking all things Cortica after the game on next week's show, but football isn't the only team playing in meaningful games on the South Hill right now. The women's volleyball team hosted the Liberty League playoffs in Ben Light Gymnasium over the weekend with an automatic berth to the NCAA tournament on the line. They squared off against Skidmore in the semifinals and swept their way to an easy win. Joelle Goldstein and Regan Stone combined for 30 kills in the straight set win. Caitlin Floyd dished out 48 assists in the victory. With that win, they moved on to the finals where they ran into Clarkson for the Liberty League crown. The Bombers came up short and lost a heartbreaker in 5 sets. Goldstein led the way for Ithaca with 15 kills, and Floyd had 47 assists in the loss. The Bombers are hoping they will receive an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So just a tough break for the Bombers. So fingers crossed, though. Hopefully selection day goes well for them.
Such an exciting year and weekend on the South Hill for both programs, volleyball and football. But we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll take a look at some Cornell football, and we'll be joined by the high school desk to debate the NBA and the NFL. So stay with us and make sure to follow us on all forms of social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Welcome back to Sports Final. Alex, big weekend for Cornell football. Last week, that great nationally televised win over Princeton. This week, taking on Dartmouth. What went on there?
Well, they were looking to stay in first place in the Ivy League. It's been a turbulent season. Not many teams in the country have had up and down of a season as Cornell has had on the gridiron. The Big Reds started the season off losing 3 straight, making the rest of the season look bleak. However, the season took a turn when they knocked off Harvard, and they've been on a roll ever since, winning 3 of their last 4. This run had them in a tie for first place in the Ivy League leading up to this week's matchup with Dartmouth. They needed a win to stay in first place. So let's take a look at the highlights. Now early second quarter, Dartmouth quarterback Jake Hennigan tossed it down the left side and it's batted away by Nick Gisaldi, and Cornell forces the punt. Or 5 minutes later, Dartmouth driving again, and Hennigan sends it deep down the left side and gets picked off by David Jones of Cornell, the Texas native, and he brings it out to the 20-yard line. However, Cornell will take over around the 10 after a personal foul call. Nothing was doing with the out after that, though, so we jump to the second half now, and Cornell quarterback Dalton Banks with the deep pass to Colin Shaw, and he'll haul this in. He weaves his way to the Dartmouth 28 on this 48-yard pass play. He had the spin move, a little juking there. They finally got him down. However, the drive stalled out, and they're forced to punt. Now, midway third and 5 for Dartmouth, Hennigan sends it over the middle, and he gets knocked away again by Gisaldi. He thought he had the pick, but it was just incomplete, and Dartmouth will hold on to win this one 10-0.
Thanks, Alex. That was a crushing game for Cornell, beating Harvard, beating Princeton, the Princeton game on the road, then losing in devastating fashion to Dartmouth. What are the realistic chances that they end up winning the Ivy League?
Well, they're in a 4-team tie for second place right now. They all trail Yale, just 1 game back, so we'll see what they can do against Columbia next week, see if they can get back into a tie for first place.
Awesome. And now we're joined at the desk by the high school desk, Ben Carlton, Taylor Mensch. Guys, how we doing?
Always fun to be at the big desk.
I'm doing great. I'm ready for it.
At the big desk. I like that. Big desk. Okay, cool.
I really wish I didn't say that.
Anyway, guys, so the debate topic today, start out with the Cavaliers. Bumpy start to their season. We see this usually with Cleveland as they really just start out the year, and in the regular season they look a little bumpy. Everyone says, are we really sure that they're playoff contenders? And then they get to the finals. This year, though, a lot more of a cause for concern. 4-6, lost at home today to the Atlanta Hawks, 117-15. First topic here, are the Cavs still the team to beat in the East? Ben, let's start with you.
I think it's a very easy answer. The Cavs are still the team to beat in the East. This is a team that's got LeBron James, and I really think it's that simple. LeBron dropped 57 in a game last week. He's one of those players that he can just do whatever he wants on the floor in the NBA game. You know, in the 2006-2007 Cavs, LeBron was playing with much less talent and still brought them to the NBA Finals. He's playing with more talent now. He's playing with a handful of all-star caliber players, and I think LeBron alone makes the Cavs the team to beat in the East.
Taylor?
Yeah, for me, they're not the best team in the East, Ben. I mean, J.R. Smith right now, who used to be one of their better players, is only averaging 5 points. Their defense is awful. Right now, they're ranked last in nearly every statistical category with defense, and LeBron can only carry a team so far, and when they're not producing on offense or defense, I mean, the Celtics are number one in the East right now. You have the Wizards, you have the Orlando Magic, who are a surprise team. Right now, the Cavs just aren't that great. Maybe they'll get it together late in the season, but they're not the best team in the East right now.
You know, guys, I got to take Ben's side on this. It's too early to panic. And the most obvious point we have to look at here is Isaiah Thomas is hurt, the biggest haul back in that Kyrie trade. Once he comes back, we'll get a good feel for what this team can actually do. And injuries have been so far an issue for the Cavs. Tristan Thompson already out for a month with a calf injury, so I don't think we'll get a good look at this team until around Christmas time, to be honest with you.
Usually you take a look at Cavs teams and you see, okay, yeah, like they're not doing well now. LeBron will turn it on in the playoffs. LeBron's turned it on already. A couple days ago, I believe, which day was it? On November 1st, 33 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, a 17-point loss at home to Indiana. Today, lost to the Hawks by 2, 117-115. The Atlanta Hawks, the 1-9 rebuilding Atlanta Hawks. That's ridiculous. And then they got killed the other night, October 28th, 29th, lost to the Knicks. Then they lost to the Pelicans by a lot. And LeBron's still putting up the monstrous numbers that he can. There's only so much that this guy can do. The biggest one, though, against Washington Friday night. 57 points for LeBron, and they only won by 8. No one else really producing that much. I think the team will really bounce back, but the best team in the East right now, if you had asked me, the Boston Celtics. Gordon Hayward goes down the first game, so now we got to see more of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Those guys 19, 20 years old. But they're playing extremely good basketball. Normally you don't see this kind of contribution for rookies. Yeah. These guys look like they can single-handedly win games. And Jaylen Brown's been incredible defensively, so has Jason Tatum. They're both proven that they're NBA ready.
Yeah, and just one last point for me. Isaiah Thomas is coming back in January. You don't know if he's going to be 100% with that hip injury. And if he's not, there could be huge problems with this team, especially at the point guard position.
Yeah, I think if Isaiah Thomas isn't healthy, then yeah, you have cause for concern. But I have every reason to think that this Cavs training staff is going to make sure Isaiah Thomas comes back healthy. And to me, Isaiah Thomas, LeBron James, when Tristan Thompson is back, hopefully you get a little more out of Dwayne Wade with that LeBron-Dwayne Wade reunion. I think the Cavs are the team to beat. They're going to get back to the conference finals at least.
And thank you, Ben, for that. We're going to toss to break, though. We'll be right back. When we return, we'll be talking to Bombers defensive tackle Matt Riccitelli. And we also like to remind you that our show is presented by our sponsor, the Bee's Knees British Imports. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into Sports Final. We're going to shift gears again, go back to some college football talk. Our very own John Sokoloff is joined by Bombers defensive lineman Matt Riccitelli to talk some Bombers football.
Thank you, Alex. John again, joined by Matt Riccitelli. Matt, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it. Now, last year, I just want to start with this. Last year, different defensive set with Mike Welch and McDonough as the defensive coordinator. Now, playing in a different system. What has that transition been like for you?
You know, it's been a pretty easy transition, not too hard really. With the 3-man front, it was different last year. A lot more of a kind of stationary, just like holding your gap, especially as a defensive lineman. And now with this 4-man front we got going, it's a lot of moving parts. We run a lot of stunts. We like to mix it up there a lot, run a lot of twist game, you know, kind of keep the offensive line guessing. So we have that edge because really we don't have the biggest defensive linemen. So, you know, we got to keep them always guessing where we're going.
Now, I want to talk about you personally for a second. New defensive coordinator Mike Turper How has he been for you adjusting to the new defense personally?
Personally, Terp's a great guy. You know, he's a really good coach. He's really fiery, really gets you going. And he's a smart. He really knows what he's talking about with this defense. And he's really done a great job with making sure everyone knows their part on the defense and make sure everyone knows what they're doing.
And defensively, you guys are the best in the Liberty League statistically. Last 3 games, averaging 4.3 points per game that you're allowing. That's it.
Yeah.
How have you been able to make things click so quickly?
It's just, I got to say, with our defense, we're a really physical defense. We just like to hit, you know, and we like to take teams out of the game early. And there's some drives here and there where they're long drives, but we just keep hitting until eventually the offense just kind of gives up, and we just wear them down to the point that they just don't want to play anymore. And so really just like the physicality that we play with, I really feel like that's why we've been shutting teams down and not letting them score a lot.
So what's it like for you having just such like a plethora of extremely skilled defensive linemen that could just be rotated in? What does that do for you personally?
It keeps the whole D-line like fresh, you know, like I'm never out of breath, never winded, like I'm always fresh, ready to go, always can get off the ball fast, and then like if I'm tired, I just kind of tap on my helmet, and then Brian Pacholik, 99, he comes running and he'll get me, and like vice versa, like he's tired, I'll go get him, and that's pretty much going down the whole defensive line. We always have people rotating in, keeping everyone fresh, never really winded, and it really helps a lot, especially when you're going up against like 320-pound, 340-pound linemen.
You're a junior, so you've been around the block for the last couple years, and we both know the last few years have been a little rough for this team.
Yeah.
So now, finally playing games that matter so much so late in the season, how does it feel?
It's awesome. November football is just, it's great to play in because you know the games that you're playing in are going to mean something. And with the last couple years, it's just haven't been clicking really, and you can see by our records the last couple years we just weren't the teams that we were before I came in as a freshman, and finally I feel like we're kind of getting back to that tradition of being like a championship quality defense and a championship quality team.
Matt, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Good luck this week against Cortland.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can end that 7-game drought.
The Jugs will come back to Ithaca, definitely.
Sounds good. I love the confidence. We're going to send it over to the high school desk with our own Taylor Mensch. Taylor?
What's up, guys? It's now time for our new segment, Taylor's Mentions. I'll be dishing the latest trending topics in the world of sports, and we're going to start off with a little fight night in the NFL. So there's a lot of fights that happened today, that happened earlier today, and Twitter is buzzing. Bengals wide receiver A.J. Green and Jaguars defender Jalen Ramsey got into a little tussle near midfield in the middle of the game. Jalen Ramsey really didn't do too much in this fight. A.J. Green just kind of snapped. Ramsey got choke slammed and punched multiple times by Green. The weirdest part was that they were both ejected. Another fight that happened was between Tampa Bay Bucks wide receiver Mike Evans and Saints defender Marshawn Lattimore. Evans absolutely decked Lattimore and started throwing punches. This all happened right by the sidelines, and the wildest thing is that Mike Evans did not get ejected. Twitter is fuming over the fact that Evans got to keep playing while Ramsey was sent to the showers. So you can easily say that it was a wild day in the NFL. All right, that's it for me, but coming up next, we have Boom or Bust with Ben the Caretaker Carlton right here on Sports Final.
Welcome back into Sports Final. A bit of a rainy Sunday night here on the South Hill, Ithaca College's campus. It's Boom or Bust time, and this week I'll be taking you through both sides of it. Before we get into it though, I got to give you guys a quick little history lesson. Earlier this semester I was trying to come up with ideas for a segment to do. So I was talking with Jeremy Menard, the manager of TV and radio operations here at Ithaca College, and he said to me, how about Ben's Boom or Bust? And now the segment was born. So a big thank you to Jeremy for that, and let's get into it. My boom for this week goes to Oklahoma quarterback and Heisman Trophy hopeful Baker Mayfield. Yesterday was the 111th meeting between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State on the football field, also known as the Bedlam game. You already know both teams had this game circled, highlighted, and underlined on the calendar in big red marker. Clearly, senior Baker Mayfield was more than ready for this one. He came out and tossed for a whopping 598 yards, 5 touchdowns, all on only 24 completions. You know, sometimes you hear people talk about video game numbers, but that doesn't even do his stat line justice. Not to mention, Mayfield did that on the road in one of the fiercest rivalry games in the country. Major props to Baker Mayfield, my boom for this week. And on the other, less glamorous side of things, the bust for this week goes to NFL front offices, in particular those of the Cleveland Browns and San Francisco 49ers. The issue with the Browns comes from their hilarious mishandling of the A.J. McCarron trade that never actually happened. As it went down, Cleveland had agreed to send a second and third round draft choice to the Cincinnati Bengals for McCarron, the backup over there in Cincy. But somehow the trade never went through. Early reports said the Browns were just celebrating so hard that they forgot to send the necessary paperwork to the league. Now, though, the popular theory is that the Browns actually sabotaged the trade by intentionally not telling the league about it after verbally agreeing with Cincinnati. The Browns just can't do anything right and get the bust this week. But before I'm out of here, I have just one question to Niners general manager John Lynch. What on earth are you thinking by asking the Patriots for Tom Brady? Earlier in the season, Lynch called the Pats asking for Garoppolo, and Belichick said he was untouchable at the time. Then a couple minutes later, Lynch reportedly called back and said, hey, how about Brady? Come on, John Lynch. That's a big old bust. Jon, Alex, back to you guys.
Thanks, Ben. Boomer Bust is great. It's hard to follow, but I think top 5 this week might take the cake. This week we're putting a little spin on it, going with NBA top plays from last night. So let's take it away. Let's go to that. Number 5, Mavs T-Wolves. And here's the big cat, Karl Anthony Towns, and he throws it down, cutting through the middle of the lane. Look at that, cocks it back with the right hand and flushes it home. Now, number 4, Grizzlies Clippers. We got Mike Conley right here. Gets by the initial defender and goes up off the top of the backboard and in. More like Magic Mike right there. And it really did take everything on this one, just getting the right angle and drops in. Now we're going back to Mavs T-Wolves, number 3. And we get a good look at Karl Anthony Towns' running partner, Andrew Wiggins, on this one. The oop from Jeff Teague, and he hammers it home. Look at that dunk. Air Canada right there, the Maple Jordan, whatever you want to call him. He can really get up. Now number 2, Grizzlies Clippers again. And it's Blake Griffin with the handles and DeAndre Jordan getting in the way so he can throw down that and one dunk on Marc Gasol. And that had Twitter buzzing last night. And that's tough to finish with the hand in the face, brushing the head, but that doesn't stop Blake Griffin. Now number 1, Nuggets, Warriors, and this play is fantastic. Emmanuel Mudiay lobs it up to the manimal, Kenneth Faried, and he throws it down on Omir Caspi. I think he might have broken a couple fingers on this one, to be honest, John. That was tough. But what a dunk. What a dunk.
Tough play for the manimal, but, you know, tough season because coming off the bench this year. But, Alex, got to ask you, before we sign off tonight, the Bills looked great. Then Thursday night lost to the Jets, the rebuilding Jets. Do the Bills still have a shot?
They do have a shot. 5-3, it's certainly doable. But the schedule coming up is tough. I'm not going to lie right there. The easiest matchup might be the Dolphins twice, and even that's tough to say that's a easy matchup right there. We still got the Patriots twice, Saints, Chargers, Chiefs. There's not really any easy spots coming up for the Bills, so we'll see what they can do. But that Thursday night game was ugly.
Yeah, what happened on that one?
You know, I think it's just short week. You come in a couple days earlier, you blow up social media, sports world, when you land Calvin Benjamin, everyone's buzzing, and it's kind of it's tough to come into a game like that when it's such a high. So We'll see if they can get the good times back and get to the playoffs for the first time in my lifetime.
Well, that's going to do it for us on this Sunday edition of Sports Final. We'll be back next week after the 59th annual Cortica Jug. Should be a big game. A lot of people predicting that the Bombers are going to end the 7-year drought this week.
What's your prediction for the game?
I think Ithaca should win. You know, Cortland last week barely beating Utica yesterday, 24-23, losing to St. John Fisher, 2 teams that Ithaca beat easily. But on the day of the Jug, anything could happen. So that's going to do it for us. We like to also remind you that our show is brought to you by the Bee's Knees British Imports, and to follow us on all forms of social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a good night.